All right, we'll go ahead and get started. I think a couple people will still be joining us, but want to be cognizant of everybody's time. So thank you all so much again for joining us today for our first ever webinar that's focused on planned giving and the launch of the Pelotonia Legacy Society. So for those of you that I haven't met yet, I'm Erica Walker, and I'm our Philanthropy and Stewardship Manager here at Pelotonia. And I have the awesome privilege of working with our Legacy Society members and other individuals who are looking to learn more about what it means to leave a planned gift to Pelotonia. So today's session, as you all know, since you registered, is about sharing how legacy gifts can create a long-term impact to support our mission to end cancer and to help all of you understand some of the simple ways that you can be part of that legacy. So the webinar will be about 45 minutes long, and we really encourage you to ask questions at any point throughout the webinar. You can use the Q&A function at the top of your screen to submit questions at any point. We'll have a specific section towards the end that will answer some of those questions. I also just want to note that the session is being recorded today so that we can share it with others who can't attend live. And before I go ahead and introduce our speakers, I want to start by sharing just a little bit about the Pelotonia Legacy Society and really why we decided to start that here at Pelotonia. So we officially launched the Legacy Society last year as a way to recognize all of the individuals who have included Pelotonia in their estate plans and to really build a sense of community around this really meaningful decision that all of these folks have decided to make. So everybody who's part of this group already really shares a vision to ensure that future generations who deal with cancer will have the right resources, and the breakthroughs will still be happening in future years that they can live longer and healthier lives. In the years leading up to the Pelotonia Legacy Society's creation, we had received quietly some gifts, some generous gifts from community members who had included Pelotonia in their wills or trust. And oftentimes we didn't know about those in advance. And those gifts have gone on to make such an incredible impact. And we realized that we were missing a way to sort of celebrate them and thank them during their lifetimes for the lasting impact that they've left. So because of those reasons, the Legacy Society was born, like I said, not only as a way to recognize and thank people, but to really ensure that everybody feels even more connected to our mission and to each other. It's already grown into a great community of folks, and we're really excited about the future and having more people join us. And again, just everybody around this shared belief that cancer research is worth investing in for today and for tomorrow. So we are actually joined by a couple of our Legacy Society members on the call today. So shout out to all of you who are here. Thank you for being a part of it. And we're actually going to hear from one of them later on during the webinar. Last thing before we go ahead and I turn it over to John and Eric, I just want to quickly highlight the importance of Pelotonia's partnership with Ohio State. So as our beneficiary, 100% of all of Rider-raised funds goes to supporting cancer research at Ohio State. All of you should know that as members of the Pelotonia community. But something you may not know is that, as we develop the Legacy Society, the team at Ohio State has really been a great partner for us in helping to think through how we make planned giving accessible and impactful for our supporters. So, leading with that intro, I want to quickly introduce John Woods. We're super excited to be joined by him today. He's the Associate Vice President of Estate and Gift Planning at Ohio State. And he's going to help us better understand about planned giving and how it can make such a big difference. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Eric Olsavsky, who's our Vice President of Community Engagement and Partnerships here at Pelotonia, who's going to lead the conversation with John.
Awesome. Erica, thank you for that great introduction. I want to say thank you to everyone that's on the call here today. It's great to see some familiar faces, some that are members of the Legacy Society, but then also those of you who are curious about the Legacy Society as well. So we're excited to share more information about planned giving and certainly how you can leave a lasting impact on cancer research. And then I want to say thank you to John, because he has just been a tremendous friend, a tremendous partner as we started kind of formalizing what the Pelotonia Legacy Society looks like. We can't say thank you enough to John and his team, who have kind of been a guiding light for us in a lot of ways. And certainly thankful, John, for you being here today and joining us. Spend a little bit of time to help just provide some more details about Planned Giving. So I think, John, I think a great place to start, just like setting baseline here, I think would be a great place to start. Why don't you tell me a little bit about, or tell us a little bit about your role and maybe the services your office provides at Ohio State, and then we can get into some Pelotonia stuff as well.
Absolutely. So what my office does, we oversee kind of more or less the charitable estate planning for the university. So we work with our alumni, donors, friends, staff who have an interest in making a gift either through an estate. We look for most tax advantageous ways for somebody to make a gift. And we really kind of have personalized service to help people make that decision. So I have a group of 7 gift planners. All my team have law degrees. And then I also oversee all the gift agreements. So anytime somebody makes a gift and we have an agreement in place to follow what the donor wants, my team drafts that also.
Perfect. Okay. Well, let's dive in to Planned Giving. I think a great place to start is just like an overall like definition, like what is Planned Giving, and how is it like a powerful tool for people who really want to make a long-term impact?
Planned giving, you hear that all giving's planned. So people get a little confused when we say what can planned giving.
Right.
And I've been doing this now I was at the University of Arizona for 21 years, and they recruited me to Ohio State 10 years ago. So a long time I've been doing it. It started out really just as planned giving, and now our office is called estate and gift planning. So we try to be a little more specific what it means. So to me, what planned giving means, it's charitable estate planning. It's when people are thinking about doing something, what their legacy is, doing something for a charity. But it's also complex gifts. So it's not just the easy a gift that you may be able to do, a little bit more complex, trying to figure out solutions for a donor that are tax advantageous for them and also something for the charity. And really looking at just what is the best fit for that. It's a very powerful tool. And there's a lot of different vehicles out there that really benefit the donor and it benefits the charity. So it's mutual there. But it's actually talking through these, because most financial advisors and attorneys, CPAs, they don't deal with this on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So that Planned Giving a piece, it can be very powerful, but you really need to be able to sit down and really structure what you want to do.
So you mentioned that there are certainly some complex cases out there from a planned gift perspective. Let's like start on the other end of the spectrum though. Talk a little bit about the most common or the most straightforward types of planned gifts. I think that's probably a good spot.
Yeah. So I think the one we see the most of is just really somebody leaving money through their estate or living trust. So a simple bequest going to the charity to go for a specific purpose for what they want. So we're probably about 80% of the gifts we receive through our offices through that. Now, that also includes beneficiaries. So somebody may have an IRA or a retirement plan, a 401k, 457B. They can have different retirement plans and have a beneficiary they can also leave the charity on. But there's one thing I think that is really we're seeing much more of, and it's the QCD. So it's the qualified charitable distribution. So once a donor hits 70 and a half, they can actually take up to $108,000 directly from their IRA and give it directly to the charity and pay no taxes on it. And it's a great way for somebody to make a gift once they're 70 and a half from their IRA and not have to worry about itemizing. And in the state of Ohio, of course, we don't itemize. You can't itemize, so you don't pay taxes on that amount that you're actually giving to the charity. And it counts toward your required minimum distribution, which is important to a lot of people. So, bequests are the main one we've seen, but with beneficiary forms, life insurance policies, just leaving the charity as a beneficiary, there are great ways to do that.
So I think that's a great place to let's stay on like the beneficiary designations. And I want to talk more about QCDs too, but from an ease perspective, setting up, either your 401k at your current employer, or if you've rolled over dollars from a previous employer, maybe with your financial advisor, or that life insurance policy. Can you speak to like how easy is it to just set up those vehicles as planned gifts?
Yeah. So payable on death are very easy. You can leave the seminar today, go online, and you can actually change your beneficiary for most of your payable on death. So they are by far the easiest way to do it. And it's much easier than doing your will or your living trust, but you can do it online at any point.
Okay, gotcha. And then let's go back to QCDs.
Yeah.
Because this is like everyone's talking about QCDs right now. How easy or difficult is to set that up, post 70 years of age?
So it's, once it's the 70 and a half, you don't have
70 and a
to
half, sorry.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, you have to be 70 and a half. And the IRS is very clear on that. We have had donors who tried a little early and we can't take the gift, or it's a taxable gift from their IRA.
Got it.
Okay. Very easy to do. You go back to your administrator, you tell them that you want to make a gift directly to the charity. They then will send a check directly to the charity. And then on your tax return, you will actually use that as you made a gift to charity next to what the distribution is. So it's pretty easy to do. You don't want to do it too late in the year, because sometimes when you're working with your IRA administrator, it may take up to 30 to 45 days, and it has to be done the taxable year that you're making the gift, or taking the distribution.
Yeah. So John, I guess a follow-up question to that. So on this call, there's probably a lot of riders with Pelotonia.
Yep.
And some of them may be beyond that 70 and a half age. Could they set that up? I'm assuming this is the case. They could set this up and it could go to benefit their own ride.
They should be able to, as long as they're getting no specific benefit. Now, you'd have to talk with your administrator. If they believe that you have to pledge a certain amount, you may not be able to do that if it's a legally binding pledge.
That's where I was getting at, kind of like a DAF, and is that, kind of violate if there's a pledge commitment, or if there's any benefit that's extracted from that at all?
Yeah, you want to check with your administrator to make sure you can do that.
Perfect. And we can help you through that process. And again, if people have questions about some of the topics that we're discussing right now, we'll have a Q&A session at the end here that we can address some of those questions. Okay, let's switch, John, to more of the traditional wills or bequests. Stat out of the Wall Street Journal: 54% of Americans don't have a documented will. Can you talk a little bit about the importance there?
It's important to have a will at any age, and you do have people who don't have a will. Actually, I was just dealing with my brother-in-law who is almost 50 now. He's just starting his will. A lot of assets. He's looking at, do I really need a will? Do I need a living trust? Yes, you do. You need to have at least a will to designate who the money goes to. You can have payable on death. So there's a way to get around not having a will, because payable on death does not follow what your will says. That's a separate document. But there's a lot of things you may not have payable on death for. So a will is very important. Also, it's very important if you have minors, because you decide who the guardian is of your children after you're no longer living. If you don't have a will and something happens and the court makes the decision, it may be somebody you don't want your kids to be the guardian of. So very important when you have minors. It's not difficult to do a will. I think a lot of people, with that number's pretty high. And I think part of it is people think if you do a will, you're going to die tomorrow. It doesn't happen like that.
Yeah.
Right. So, people don't want to talk about death, but a will is very important to have.
So where does someone go to start with a will? A basic question there, but is there a resource that you typically point people towards, or?
Yeah. Well, we tell them to go to an attorney.
Right.
That's the best way to go. A lot of people don't want to deal with attorneys, so they will go to some forums that are out there. LegalZoom.com. I'm not overly excited when you look at it. The document's a little bit clunky. It may not do exactly what you want. So your best bet is really to find an estate planning attorney to work with and go from there.
Perfect. Okay. Kind of going back again, just thinking about planned giving holistically, what are like the myths, or what are like the common misconceptions about a planned gift that you or your office may come across?
I think people think it's difficult to structure these gifts. So it's they don't want to do it because it's going to be a difficult process, and it's not. We make the process as easy as possible. Uh, some of them think it's too expensive because they have to go out and get an attorney to
Yeah.
change their will or trust. And you don't have to do that because you can do the payable on death and you don't have to get an attorney involved. And also, there's a point where you may wait until you're ready to change your estate plan and then put the charity in at that point because there was a death in the family or there was a birth and you were going to change your plan anyway. So you were already going to be doing that. There are some people that are like, I don't have a large estate. I don't, I'm not going to make a difference by doing a charitable gift. And that is totally untrue. Every gift that is made to a charity does make a difference. And you find that estate gifts are actually a little bit larger than their annual gift because they don't need the money anymore. So they're able to give you that larger gift. I think a misconception is the charity really doesn't need to know I'm doing this. And we have a lot of advisors that will tell the donor, you don't need to tell the charity how much you're giving or what the estimated amount is, or even tell them that you're giving it. That is true. There is no legal requirement for you to tell us, but it does help us as a charity for planning. It's a revocable gift. We want to be able to say thank you during your lifetime. We want to get you involved with the charity. So it's important in those aspects. And it's also, for somebody to tell us what they think the value is, even though it's an estimate, I think is very important because when you die, we're monitoring that to make sure we're getting what we think or what you told us we're going to get. Once again, things change. It may be higher, it may be lower. You may decide to take us out, but at least we have a baseline to make sure that it's being done correctly.
Yeah, and John, like going back to what you started with and that comment, if you hire an estate attorney, obviously there's going to be some cost involved there, right? But going back to like beneficiary designations, no cost typically from that perspective, and so that if we take that creation of a will or bequest, yes, you're going to have some expenses there. But those more simple beneficiary designations, zero cost at all, correct?
Yes, zero cost, easy to do. And like I said, you can do that right. You can do it today if you wanted to.
Got it. Perfect. Okay. How would you recommend someone get started? Like, what's the first step to take?
Yeah, I think the first step is to talk to the charity. So to talk about what your interests are, what you want to accomplish, and kind of go through that route first. Once you're there, then they can go back to your attorney, go back to your financial advisor, go back to your CPA, whoever you're using to work with them to actually get it done. But make sure the charity can do what you want. They may come to you and you have a completely different idea. So always go to the charity first. And also it helps on your bill. We have donors who will go to their attorney first, and the attorney calls us to get that language to put into the estate plan. Well, that's an extra expense. And I always, recommend too, when you have like an estate planning team and you have an interest in charity, have the charity be part of that team. So you can work all together to get and accomplish what you want to accomplish.
So do you see, from your perspective, John, you and your team, are you oftentimes in the room, per se, with a donor's, financial advisor or donor's estate, attorney?
We are, because of the fact that this is what we do for a living. We understand this little bit niche of charitable estate planning. Most attorneys, CPAs, financial advisors don't do this on a daily basis. So we may have some ideas that they don't have that can help their clients. So we do see us in the room quite a bit with that.
Okay. And then I think, let's just wrap up with one more question, and then we can throw some questions out there from the audience if we have any. And I know Erica's monitoring that. Let's just talk a little bit about, and this is a bigger topic, but a little bit about the tax advantages of a planned gift.
So luckily, in the United States, you get a tax deduction. So when you make a gift during your lifetime, an outright gift, even if it's from cash, stock, it could be one of the other charitable vehicles, you will get some type of tax deduction, which you can take. As long as you itemize, you're able to take that tax deduction. In Ohio, we said you can't do that. So that's why the QCD, or the qualified charitable distribution, really makes a lot of sense in Ohio, because we don't allow for a tax deduction. When you make a gift to charity from your estate, you have unlimited dollars that you can give from your estate to a charity and pay no taxes on it. So there is a high threshold right now for estate taxes. And it's probably going to go up a little under the new tax bill that's being proposed. But if you are in a very high estate, you could pay up to 40% in taxes. Any money you give to charity pays zero taxes because the charity doesn't pay on it. So there are some tax advantages for doing gifts to charities. And it's, we like to find strategies to give you the best tax advantage.
And then one last one, because you hit on this earlier. We oftentimes, I think Eric and I have fielded a lot of questions of, well, I don't have that big of an estate, to leave. And you touched on this, and I think it's important just to reiterate it. It is less about the amount of money and more about the intentionality of what you're doing and the impact that you want to leave. And I'm just curious how many conversations you have in that frame too, John.
I think people will I have, my estate's not that big. I am going to be doing this. It's like, and that's okay. You could have the remainder after you make all your other distributions go to the charity. And, we're going to work with you to make sure it's going to be done exactly the way you want with and follow what your intent is. And donors, make a lot larger gifts when they start sitting down and looking at what would go to the charity. It's a lot larger than most people think. And, we publicize gifts, especially at Ohio State. It may be the $100 million gift. It may be a $75 million gift. That is not normal.
Yeah.
So we get, gifts of all sizes, and we're appreciative for any type of gift. But our average gift is under $100,000.
Yeah.
So it can be a huge gift or any gift. It's just it's a great way for a legacy for you, but also to help the charity.
And just to reiterate that, if we look at our Legacy Society, I think we see that broad spectrum as well. The pledge gifts that we've seen. So no amount is too small. We're appreciative of the intentionality of giving and the support of the mission. So, Erica, with that, I think let's open it up. Maybe answer a question or two that's out there in the audience.
Yes. So we have two right now. The first one is someone from the audience who says that they have already included Pelotonia as a beneficiary. Is there anything that we need to communicate to Pelotonia or Ohio State? So I can take this one. Okay. First of all, thank you so much. That's incredible. We have a form internally here at Pelotonia that we really encourage folks to fill out so that we make sure that we have, the best way that you want to be recognized as part of Pelotonia's Legacy Society. Or if you don't wish to be recognized, we can keep you anonymous. And like John was hinting at earlier, we just like to have some documentation on our end so that, for the future, we know what might be coming in the future. So I would be happy to reach out to you directly to share that form with you after this webinar.
And I think it's important too to add on to that. I think it's important for Pelotonia, John touched on this, to know what your intentions are at the end of the day, so that we can ensure that your intentions are fulfilled. And then also there are being a part of the Pelotonia Legacy Society has some different things that come with it. We're going to host some special events. And so we want to make sure that you are included in those. And we can't do that if we don't know about the planned gift. So.
Thank you. Okay, the next question, that I received privately was just someone was saying they already have a will. Do they need to rewrite the whole thing to include a charitable bequest, or can it be updated easily?
Yeah, you can easily do a codicil if you want to update your will. A codicil just to change or add a beneficiary. That's an easy thing to do. Or you could look at, if you have payable on death, you can add something to your payable on death. It doesn't have to be 100%. So let's say it was going to your estate and you want 10% to go to charity. You could say 10% of my account, payable on death account, goes to Pelotonia. So you can do it either way, but you don't have to do a completely new will. You can do a codicil.
John, codicil, that's a new word for me. Is that an amendment?
It's like an amendment.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, a trust is amendment, a codicil is for a will.
Got it. Okay.
Thank you.
Perfect. Anyone else have any questions out there?
Don't see anything else in the Q&A. We can give it a minute.
Yep. Thank you, John. I don't know if everyone can see John's comment there.
Okay. Well, feel free. We still have a few minutes left to continue to put questions either in the chat or the Q&A function. Actually, we might have just gotten one more.
Yep, we got no more questions.
Yes. So are there any specific issues to be aware of with payouts of donor advised funds after death?
After death?
Yes, post-death.
You have to make sure that your donor advised fund has a beneficiary on there to where it's supposed to go. A lot of people do not have beneficiaries on there. Then it goes back to the host institution who has the fiduciary. So very important to have payable on death there. I think that's really the only thing to be concerned about.
That's a great question. Yeah.
After I would be concerned too with your donor advised fund when you're making a gift. Certain donor advised funds will let you satisfy a pledge as long as you don't say satisfying a pledge, and some will have no benefit whatsoever. We've run into some issue with the Schwab's new one. I think it's called DAF 360. They have more restrictions, so there's some issues even during your lifetime, but at your death, just make sure you have a beneficiary on there.
John, could you just talk high level for anybody who might not be aware of what a donor advised fund is?
So the donor advised fund is actually a very, very powerful tool and actually very, very popular. The number one charity in the country is Fidelity Gift Fund, and it has a lot of people putting money into it. So what happens is you take an asset, it could be cash, it could be appreciated securities, it could be other types of tangible property, put it into a fund, you get a tax deduction that year for what the value of the asset is. It can be invested, and then you make a recommendation to the fiduciary. It could be Fidelity, Schwab, the Columbus Foundation, on how you want the money to be spent or sent out to a charity. You can do that at any point, but you get your tax deduction up front. So you will have some people, especially what happened with the itemized, the way the standard deduction went under the last tax cuts got higher. So people weren't going to itemize, so they can't take their charitable deductions. So you'll have people actually make enough charitable deduction gifts in 1 year and put it into a donor advised fund and then distribute it out over 3 or 4 years. So you can itemize 1 year and not the rest. But the way a donor advised fund really works is you put money into it and then you can decide where the money goes over time.
Perfect.
Great. Thank you. All right, one more question just came in. Is the payable on death as simple as saying Pelotonia, or is there an address, exact name, tax ID, etc., that we should use to ensure it is known where the money is to go?
Yes.
So yes.
Yes, you should have more. So what they will most likely ask you for is for an address and tax ID number, which either Eric or Erica can provide to you. Also, it doesn't hurt because a lot of times the lines for payable on death are pretty short. So you can get the charity in there, but maybe not how you want it to be used. So you can also do a memorandum of understanding or a gift agreement with the charity to further specify how the money is to be used with the charity.
Thank you.
That's a great call out, and of note, if that's of interest, Erica and I can help you with that language as well. So. Mike made a comment too. Don't forget about those DAFs. Remember to spend those down and not leave money in the fund. Thank you, Mike.
Yes.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, and I do believe most people don't realize you could do a beneficiary on there.
Yeah, that's a good call out.
I have a donor advised fund and I don't have a beneficiary, so I probably need to do that myself.
Fantastic.
All right. We'll continue to monitor if any other questions come in. But I want to quickly introduce and have Sarah Yetzer join us. So super excited to have you here today, Sarah, with us and a part of this conversation. Sarah's been a part of the Pelotonia community for a long time. She's an 8-year rider and an even longer time volunteer. And more recently, she decided to make the decision to include Pelotonia in her estate plans and become part of the Legacy Society. We're so grateful, like I said, to have her with us. And I just want to let her share quickly in her own words what inspired her to make this kind of decision and just her connection with Pelotonia. So I'll turn it over to you, Sarah. Thanks for being here.
Oh, thanks for the opportunity, Erica. Did the signs give it away? So I'm at my office at work.
I love it.
They fully know I'm all in with Pelotonia. It's interesting. I learned about Pelotonia in 2011. My husband Eric was getting treatment at the James. So I started volunteering that year. Haven't looked back with volunteering. In 2017, I made the jump to become a rider. My friend Pam, who's actually on the call too, she did it a year before me, and she convinced me it's not that bad. You're not going to die. If you can run half marathons, you can bike. And I was like, okay. And it just seems every year I have a family member, a friend, a colleague that's diagnosed. I had two colleagues pass away last year from cancer. So this fuels me to keep supporting Pelotonia. I actually keep a list in my pocket in the back of my jersey with all the names of people that I know that have been touched. And cancer is smart. It evolves. Not one treatment or cure is going to save this, because we know it's smart and it's going to evolve, and we need to keep finding that next thing to help the next person. So ironically, last year I was updating all my financial documents. The timing worked out perfectly. I added Pelotonia to my will. And it actually notified Erica that I had done that. And she shot me an email thanking me. And I did the form for them. It takes less than 5 minutes. Super easy. It's not that hard. And when you think about legacy, it's not an all or nothing thing. You can decide how much you want to leave to the Pelotonia legacy. Like, I made sure all of my financial my final expenses are covered. Got to think about funeral. I'm not going to lie, I will probably update my will in probably the next 5 to 6 years, as I have some nieces and nephews who will turn 18, and I want to make sure like they're taken care of. But the majority of everything I have at the end is going to go to Pelotonia, because I believe in this so much.
Thank you so much for sharing, Sarah. We really appreciate you not only being part of the community, but being part of the Legacy Society. And, I can just tell how passionate you are, and it just inspires me too to want to continue to do everything I can to support our mission. So thank you, Sarah.
Thanks, Sarah.
It.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right. I don't see any other questions or anything in the chat. So I think we'll Pam, shout out. Pam, Sarah is awesome.
Pam's awesome too.
Yes,
Thank you, Pam.
Pam is awesome. So I think that we will go ahead and just wrap up. I think we've talked about most of these things today, but just to kind of recap a couple of next steps, if if this conversation today got you thinking and you want to chat more or learn more, if you want to have a conversation with either Eric or I about including Pelotonia in your estate plans, we would be more than happy to have that conversation with you. So please feel free to reach out. I will be sending a follow-up email after this webinar, so you have both of our contact information and also some of the information that was brought up in the chat, because some, like the tax identification number, if those are any kind of things that you need to sort of take the next step, I'll make sure that's in the follow-up email to you all. And like we, touched on earlier, we always encourage you to have conversation with your financial advisor and or estate planning attorney as you kind of consider these types of gifts. John is an expert in this area, but Eric and I are not attorneys, and we cannot give you, tax advice or legal advice of that nature. So we definitely, encourage you to also talk with those folks as you think about this. But just thank you all so much for joining us today. Truly, whether you're already a part of the Legacy Society or you're just starting to, think about planned giving, we really appreciate you guys joining this call with us and learning more about how you can make a lasting impact with Pelotonia. So we're here to help however we can. Please don't hesitate to reach out. And thank you guys all so much for joining us.
John, thank you for joining us. We
Right.
appreciate your time and your expertise.
Yes.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.